Good morning, students. How are you? I hope you all are fine and staying home to keep yourself safe from COVID-19 students. Here in this module, we are going to discuss about the resources and development. So mainly, we'll discuss in this module about the classification of resources. So let us begin, students. The resources. Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable, can be termed as resource. So economically feasible means the first one is technologically accessible, means whatever technology we have that can be used for exploitation of that resource, for the use of that resource. Accessible. Economically feasible means that country or the place is having enough economic resource, enough money power to use the resources. And culturally acceptable means the culture, the traditional belief is allowing the people to use that thing as a resource. The process of transformation of things available in our environment involve an interactive relationship between nature, technology, and institution. As here in this figure you can see there is human being in the center, and this human being is creating relationship between the physical environment with the help of technology and institution. Whatever the resources are available in the nature, human being is trying to make institution and planning appropriate with the appropriate technology how to use that resource. Human being interact with nature through technology, create institution to accelerate their economic development. Now the classification. Resources classified mainly in two categories: natural and human. Natural resources are further subdivided in two categories: renewable and non-renewable. So renewable, you know that resources can be renewed naturally or by some human effort. Here given renewable resources categorized in two categories: continuous or flow like wind and water. Biological means that are renewable biologically, natural vegetation and wildlife. Non-renewable resources recyclable and non-recyclable. Recyclable resources like metals which can be used, reused again and again by recycling it. Non-recyclable like fossil fuel that exhaust after use. Human resources that structures and institutions, whatever human beings are creating, the different structures and institutions, and quantity and quality of the different resources. Types of resources on the basis of origin: biotic and abiotic. Here in the figure you can see biotic resources. These are obtained from biosphere and have lives such as human beings, flora, fauna, fisheries, livestock. Abiotic resources: all those things which are composed of non-living things are called abiotic resources. For example, rocks and metals. On the basis of exhaustibility, renewable and non-renewable. The resources which can be renewed or reproduced by physical, chemical, or mechanical processes are known as renewable or replenishable resources. For example, solar and wind energy, water, forest and wildlife, etc. These renewable resources may further be divided into continuous or flow, non-renewable resources. These occur a very over a very long geological time, means takes millions of years in the formation of these non-renewable resources. Mineral and fossil fuels are example of such resources. These resources take millions of years in their formation. Some of the resources like metals are recyclable and some like fossil fuels cannot be recycled and get exhausted with their use, like oil, fossil fuels. On the basis of ownership, individual resources. These are also owned privately by individuals. Many farmers own land which is allotted to them by government against the payment of revenue. In villages there are people with land ownership, but there are many who are landless. So the people who are owning that land property, so the resources, that land is referred as individual resource. Urban people own plots, houses and other properties. So these are also individual resources. Plantation, pasture land, ponds, water in wells are some of example of resources owned by individual. Community owned. You can make a list of owned by your household. Community owned resources. These are resources which are accessible to all the members of community. As here in the figure you can see the burial ground, the park. So there are resources which are accessible to all the members of the community: village commons, grazing grounds, burial grounds, village ponds, public park, picnic spot, playground in the urban areas are de facto accessible to all the people living there. National resources. Technically all the resources belong to nation. The country has legal power to acquire even private property for public goods. You might have seen roads, canals, railways being constructed on fields owned by some individuals. Urban development authorities get empowered by the government to acquire land. All the minerals, water resources, forest, wildlife, land within the political boundaries, and the oceanic area up to 12 nautical miles, that is 22.2 km from the coast, termed as territorial water and resources therein belong to the nation. International resources. There are international institutions which regulate some resources. The oceanic resources beyond 200 nautical miles of the exclusive economic zone belong to open ocean, and no individual country can utilize these without the concurrence of the international institution. Here, exclusive economic zone is that particular area from the coast of that country, that up to 12 nautical miles, referred as the exclusive economic zone, where the country has legal authority to use the resources in the ocean region. This was all about the classification of resources and students. We'll meet in the next module with some other topics. Till then, bye bye students.